Welcome back to Life in Words, where we share stories to help older adults live healthier, more independent, and more meaningful lives every day. In today's conversation, we are honored to be joined by a very special guest, Dr. Kenjiro Watanabe, who has devoted more than 70 years of his life to geriatric medicine. At 102 years old, he is not only a living testament to longevity, but also a caring soul who continues to guide his older patients toward a better life, one day at a time. He once said something we couldn't forget. The risk of stroke doesn't come from far away. It hides in the smallest morning routines right when the body is at its most fragile. And that became the reason why this conversation had to happen. Every year, hundreds of thousands of older adults experience sudden health events, and stroke is among the most serious. But what troubles us most is knowing that many of these cases could have been prevented, if only the early signs were noticed and understood. Today, Dr. Watanabe will share 5 morning habits that seem harmless, but silently triple the risk of stroke after the age of 60. He'll also help us recognize the very first warning signs, those subtle signals that can easily go unnoticed in everyday life. If you believe this conversation could help you or someone you love, please consider subscribing to our channel, Life in Words. We promise to continue bringing heartfelt, science-informed, and truly helpful stories like this one. And if you're still with us, take a moment to leave a comment. I'm ready to change my mornings, because you never know, your words may be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Let's begin not just with our minds, but with the kind of care that only comes when we truly listen to our bodies. The first sign, not pain, but subtle disconnection. I asked Dr. Watanabe directly, if you could only warn your patients about one early sign of stroke, what would it be? He smiled gently and replied, I would tell them, don't wait for pain or dizziness to start worrying. The very first sign isn't scary, it simply feels off. And then he shared the story of a man he once treated, 74 years old, a retired accountant, living well, mentally sharp. He didn't come in because he felt sick. He came because he noticed he had been dropping his keys more often. His wife had pointed out he was fumbling with buttons, and just days earlier, he had forgotten how to spell milk while writing a shopping list. No headache, no slurred speech, but something wasn't right. They ran a scan and discovered he had experienced a mini-stroke TIA without realizing it. They caught it in time. His medication was adjusted, his diet improved, his hydration monitored, and because of that, he never had a major stroke. Dr. Watanabe leaned forward and said softly, the brain doesn't scream for help, it whispers. And those whispers often sound like clumsy fingers, like a toothbrush missing its mark, like a hand that no longer pours tea as smoothly as before. He continued, these things are not just aging. They are signs of interrupted blood flow, small, but meaningful. I paused, reflecting. I too have had moments like that, forgetting a word, dropping a utensil, moments I brushed off as nothing. If you're watching this right now, I invite you to share with us. Have you ever felt your hands or coordination acting a little differently than usual? Leave a comment. Yes if you have, or no if you haven't. Your experience might help someone recognize what they've been ignoring. Dr. Watanabe isn't one to alarm or scold. He simply reminds us gently that what we dismiss as minor might actually be the body's earliest attempt to ask for help. And that help begins, as he says, not with fear but with attention. Why morning is the most vulnerable time for stroke? When I asked why those early signs of stroke tend to appear in the morning, Dr. Watanabe didn't hesitate with his answer. Because that's when the body wakes up, but the circulatory system is still struggling to find its rhythm. He explained that while we sleep, our bodies go hours without water. Blood becomes thicker and heavier. At the same time, cortisol, the stress hormone, begins to surge with the rising sun. Blood pressure follows. In younger people, blood vessels remain flexible enough to adapt, But after 60, those vessels grow stiffer and respond more slowly, and that's when things can go wrong. He called it a physiological storm at sunrise, a collision of dehydration, hormonal shifts, and rising pressure, all targeting a cardiovascular system already worn by time. I realized how true this was. Every morning, we often jump out of bed, pour coffee, read the news, check our phones all without pause. Few of us stop to drink water or simply sit and breathe. We launch into the day without noticing that our bodies might need to be awakened in a gentler way. Dr. Watanabe nodded with quiet concern. Just because your eyes are open doesn't mean your body's ready. Think of it as a machine that deserves to be started with care. Then he said something that stayed with me. You can't stop the sunrise, but you can choose how you greet it. If you're still watching, we'd love to hear how you usually begin your morning. Comment below. I start my day with, maybe it's coffee, a walk, a moment of silence, or even a deep breath at the window. Your story might inspire someone to change their rhythm too. Mornings are not the enemy, but when we don't understand what our bodies are going through, they can become the most fragile time of all. As Dr. Watanabe reminds us, aging doesn't make you weak, but ignoring your rhythms makes you vulnerable. The first morning habit that silently raises stroke risk. I asked Dr. Watanabe which of all the morning habits he had seen in his older patients was the most common and the most underestimated. Without needing to think long, he replied, not drinking water after waking up. At first, it sounded simple, but his face grew serious. It's not simple at all. After 6 to 8 hours of sleep, your body's like a dry sponge. Your blood thickens, circulation slows, and when you skip that first glass of water, you're forcing your brain to function without the one thing it needs most, hydration. I was struck, like so many others. I start my mornings with coffee, maybe the news, and often forget water entirely. Dr. Watanabe nodded with quiet understanding. Most people think caffeine wakes them up, but your brain doesn't need stimulation first. It needs circulation, and circulation begins with water, not coffee. He mentioned a study showing that nearly half of all first-time strokes in older adults were linked to dehydration in the morning. Not genetics, not poor diet, just not drinking water. And the solution, incredibly simple. Just a glass of room temperature water, not cold, not flavored before anything else. Before coffee, before medication, before the news. It's not just about wetting your throat. It's about telling your brain, I'm taking care of you. I asked him, is it too late to start for someone who hasn't done this in decades? He smiled warmly. It's never too late to speak kindly to your body, and sometimes that kindness begins with a single glass of water. If you're watching this right now, let us know, do you include water in your morning routine? Comment below, I drink water every morning if that's already part of your habit. Or I'll start tomorrow if this is your first time hearing just how important it is. Dr. Watanabe never scolds or lectures. He just shares what he's seen softly, like a father reminding his child to wear a coat. Behind that calm voice is a lifetime of witnessing avoidable moments that became irreversible. And that first glass of water, it may seem small, but it could be one of the simplest and most powerful ways to protect your clarity, your balance, and your life after 60. Habit 2. Sitting too long after waking, a mistaken form of rest. I asked Dr. Watanabe, many people like to sit in bed for a while after waking up, checking their phone, reading the news, easing into the day. Isn't that a good way to start gently? He shook his head slowly. It's something I see often in my older patients, and unfortunately, it's not as harmless as it seems. He explained that after hours of lying down, blood tends to pool in the lower body, especially in the legs. For younger individuals, blood vessels remain elastic enough to send blood back to the heart efficiently. But after 60, that elasticity weakens. If you go from lying still to sitting still without any movement in between, circulation stays sluggish and less oxygen reaches the brain in those first moments of the day. He called it a light vascular bottleneck and warned that if someone then gets up too quickly or strains while in the bathroom, they may trigger a sudden spike in pressure to an already struggling system. He's seen strokes occur in the morning, right after waking, because of this sequence. I fell silent, picturing the many older adults I know who sit quietly for long stretches each morning, believing it's restful, or those who rush to the bathroom too quickly. These seemed like harmless routines, until now. But Dr. Watanabe didn't leave us there. His guidance was gentle, practical, and easy to follow. Just take 2 minutes. While still lying down, move your ankles, stretch your toes, roll gently to one side. Then, once you sit up, do a few shoulder circles, roll your neck, and stand slowly. It's about helping the blood start flowing upward again, safely and gradually. He smiled and added, "You don't need to exercise. Just wake your blood before it has to carry you." I love that idea, not move more, but move with intention, no pressure, no rush, just kindness toward a body that's trying to adjust. If you're still with us, share something small you can do each morning to get your circulation going. Comment tomorrow morning. I'll try. Maybe it's walking to the kitchen, stretching by the bed, or simply raising your arms. These little efforts can make a big difference. Getting older doesn't mean getting weaker, but after 60, the body needs to be guided, not forced, and that begins in the first few minutes of the day with gentleness, with awareness, and with just a little patience. Habit 3, skipping breakfast, a common but dangerous mistake. When we got to the next point, Dr. Watanabe paused a moment longer than usual before continuing. Then he said quietly, "Many people believe that skipping breakfast is healthy for weight control, to stay light or to save time. But after 60, that belief becomes risky." He shared how he's seen countless older patients take blood pressure medication, diabetes medication, or heart pills early in the morning without eating anything. The result, they enter the day dehydrated, with thickened blood and falling blood sugar. And in those moments, the brain suffers first. The brain doesn't store energy like the heart or liver, he said. It needs a steady supply, especially in the morning after a full night of fasting. I asked, "So what happens when we take meds and drink coffee, but don't eat?" He sighed gently. "That's a recipe for disaster. I've seen many strokes in older adults happen within just hours of mornings like that. It's not random. It's the result of unstable conditions we create for ourselves." His solution, once again, was beautifully simple. He didn't suggest a heavy breakfast, just something small and stabilizing, a little protein, and healthy fat, half a boiled egg, a spoonful of yogurt, a few soaked walnuts. Even a slice of whole grain toast with almond butter would be enough to signal the brain you're supported. Breakfast after 60 isn't about appetite, he said. It's about rhythm, stability, and circulation. I'd once believed that skipping breakfast showed discipline. I even felt proud of it. But now I see it differently. After 60, breakfast is no longer optional, it's essential. Not for fullness, but to keep the body's systems running steadily, especially the brain and heart. If you're watching this, I invite you to share your own breakfast habit. Comment. My favorite breakfast is, maybe it's something simple or something you've been meaning to add back in. Your story might help someone else begin again. And as Dr. Watanabe softly reminded us, you don't need to overhaul your entire life. You just need to change how you begin your morning. And breakfast is one of the gentlest places to start. Habit 4. Early morning stress. The hidden pressure that pushes your brain and heart to the edge. I will never forget the look in Dr. Watanabe's eyes when he talked about this next habit. He didn't speak with blame, but with deep understanding, as if he had witnessed this same mistake far too many times. One of the most dangerous things older adults do in the morning, he said, is expose themselves to stress too early before their bodies are truly ready. We often think of stress as something emotional, being annoyed, frustrated, or mentally overwhelmed. But in truth, stress is a biological chain reaction. And when it begins right after waking up, it forces the heart and blood vessels to respond while still trying to stabilize. Dr. Watanabe described a long-term study involving over 90,000 people. It showed that those who regularly encountered psychological stress in the early hours, like reading upsetting news, checking emails, or arguing with a loved one, were significantly more likely to suffer strokes, especially within the first 3 hours of waking. Why? Because the body is already in transition. Cortisol, the stress hormone, naturally peaks in the early morning. Blood pressure is rising. Add mental pressure on top of that, and you create a storm in a body that's still finding its balance. I paused, thinking about my own routine, how I often grab my phone the moment I wake up, scroll through headlines, jump into messages, all without giving my nervous system even 5 minutes of quiet. Dr. Watanabe doesn't say we should abandon technology or avoid the world. He simply encourages us to create a small buffer zone at the start of each day. Just 10 minutes, he said. No talking, no screens, no rush. Sit with a warm cup of tea, breathe. Let your brain feel safe before the world asks it to perform. He added softly, you don't need to meditate. You don't need a program. Just let your morning begin with care. If you're still here with us, we invite you to share one small thing that helps you find peace in the morning. Comment. The calmest part of my morning is, even a simple ritual can offer inspiration to someone else searching for balance. And if you've never had a quiet moment before your day begins, let today be the first. Dr. Watanabe reminds us, there is no greater gift you can give your heart and brain than gentleness at dawn. Habit 5. Stillness, the silent enemy. After 60. This was the part where Dr. Watanabe paused the longest. He leaned back slightly, and his voice grew quieter as he spoke about the final morning habit, the one he believed was the most dangerous of all, though often overlooked. Stillness, he said, not the peaceful kind that comes from meditation, but the kind where blood, muscles, and breath stagnate. You wake up, but you don't leave the bed, the chair, or the table. You don't move. You just remain still. To most of us, this sounds like a normal morning sipping coffee, reading the paper, easing into the day. But for a body, over 60 long periods of stillness right after waking up quietly slow down the entire circulatory system. He explained that after a night of rest, blood is already thicker. Veins don't push blood back up to the heart as effectively as they once did. Without early movement, the legs become pooling zones, and that's where clots often begin. He reminded us that in hospitals, post-surgical patients are encouraged to move as early as possible. And just because you're not in a hospital bed, he said, doesn't mean your body isn't reacting the same way to long periods of stillness. He continued, it's not just about how much you move, but when you move. And the first hour after waking up is the most important window of all. Dr. Watanabe reassured us that this doesn't mean we need to run or sweat. You don't need a treadmill, he smiled. You just need 5 to 10 minutes of light movement. March in place. Roll your shoulders, stretch your arms, walk to the mailbox. Anything that tells your blood, it's time to flow. I found that image so powerful, not forcing the body to act, but inviting it to wake up through kindness. If you're here with us now, take a moment to share what small movement you could include in your morning. Comment. I'll start my morning with maybe a few steps, some stretches, or simply walking to open the curtains. Your commitment might encourage someone else to get moving too. Dr. Watanabe closed the conversation with a metaphor I'll never forget. Think of your blood like a river. If you don't open the dam early, the water becomes stagnant, and where water sits too long, illness begins. Final thoughts. You don't need to change your whole life. Just start again. Each morning, we ended our conversation in a quiet afternoon light. Dr. Watanabe gazed out the window, where the sun was gently touching the aging leaves. I asked him, if you could leave our listeners with one final message, what would it be? He smiled. I would say this: you don't need to change your entire life. You just need to begin again each morning. I had followed him through decades of experience and care, and what moved me most was his unwavering belief in the power of small things. A glass of water, a deep breath, a soft step, a gentle meal, a moment of stillness before the world begins. No expensive supplements, no complex routines, just returning to the body with tenderness, with patience, and with intention. Stroke, for many people, feels like something sudden, a tragedy that strikes out of nowhere. But Dr. Watanabe helped us see that the signs are often there long before, whispering through daily habits, through small discomforts, through silence. Stroke risk doesn't begin in hospitals, it begins in how we move, breathe, and care for ourselves the moment we open our eyes. After 60, the body may slow down, but it still has the power to heal if we listen. And the most important moment to listen is not when we feel symptoms, it's when the day begins. If you've made it to the end of this video, please take a moment to write down your reflections. Leave a comment. I'll begin again starting tomorrow morning if this message speaks to you. You never know who else your words might inspire today. And if you believe this video could help someone, a parent, a friend, or even your future self, please share it and subscribe to Life in Words. We'll continue to bring you stories filled with warmth, truth, and hope to help you live lighter, stronger, and more connected each day. Growing older is not the end. It's a new chapter where you walk slower, see more clearly, and learn to care for yourself in a whole new way with softness, honesty, and the wisdom of years. And it all begins with a gentle morning.